Okay, so welcome to Escape the Rat Race Radio, Paul. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you, Christian, and thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome, Paul. You know, you're a good friend of Escape the Rat Race. I've attended your events in the past, your wonderful social media workshops, and you've kindly spoken at one of the Escape the Rat Race meetups back in, I think 2016. It was early days.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
So, Paul, it's good to pin you down because every time I look at you on Facebook, you are all over the world doing amazing things, speaking on absolutely gigantic stages in front of thousands and thousands of people. So I'm looking forward today to our conversation. And we're going to be talking today about, well, the title of today is Rethink, How to Use Social Media. Okay,
yeah.
Now I know that there's a lot of things that we can talk about with social media in terms of actually using it as a business rather than just sharing pictures and kind of using it socially. So we'll dive into that. But before we do that, Paul, would you mind just sharing a little bit about your background and what's led you to this point of being, I'd say, the social media expert out there?
Yeah, absolutely. No problem, Christian. So in 2009, which is over a decade ago now, I was 9 years into a corporate job. That's why this show very much resonates with me. I was definitely in the rat race at that point, coming into my 10th year. And I was turning age 30 also at the same time. And I think a lot of us, when we come to the end of specific decades, we start to kind of look at what we've achieved over the past 10 years and maybe where we're going to be going. And I just remember making kind of a mental decision that I didn't want to keep going in this corporate ladder, because I was looking at my boss and my boss's boss, which were my natural next steps, and both of them looked really stressed. Both of them looked older than they should do. They had more grey hairs than they should have. And I remember thinking, God, it'd be great if there was something else I could do, but really had no idea about how to do that. I had to go at trying to make money on the stock market on the side, trying to make money on property on the side. Never got fully educated on how to do those things and failed miserably at them. But I attended an event in 2009. It was actually February 2009 in Ireland, and it was the first time ever I was introduced to this idea of people setting up internet businesses. Now, my stance was pretty simple. It was the internet's a scam, right? Everybody knows that. If you go near the internet, it has to be a scam. So I was kind of intrigued to listen to all these Americans, primarily, who were making millions of dollars. Most of them were high school or college dropouts. They were speaking about things that I'd never heard of before. They used tools like Amazon and email and stuff that I used to spend money while they were using it to make money. And I really kind of had a moment of clarity when one speaker could really pick up on something that was really obvious with an Irish crowd. It was obvious it hadn't been in Ireland before as speakers, because they were very motivational and very, everything is awesome sort of an approach, where we're quite the opposite, very skeptical. And one speaker commented on it. He said, look, I get why you guys are so skeptical. He said, because since you were born and since you went to school, you've been brainwashed to believe that wealth is connected with the letters after your name. In other words, your qualifications, your BSc, MA, MBA, whatever that might be. And he said, I don't know about you, but I tend to measure wealth by the numbers in my bank account, not the number of letters after my name. And I remember that really hit home with me. I remember thinking, God, this guy's so arrogant. But it really annoyed me, because that was the perfect representation of the journey I was on. It was, what's my next qualification? What's going to allow me to get promoted next? And it wasn't making me a single penny more. And it was at that point that I realized that I was learning the wrong tools, the wrong skills. It was the first time I understood the Mark Twain saying fully, which was I never let my schooling get in the way of my education. Now, anytime I say that to people, they always nod their head and say, yeah, I know that quote. I like that quote. Well, they are exactly products of that. And they don't realize what he means by that there is a completely different education out there that most of us are never introduced to whatsoever. And at 30 years of age, you're thinking, well, who do I believe? Everybody that loves me, my family, my friends, my colleagues, my co-workers, and what they believe is right for me, or these complete strangers from a different country who are selling their wares? And obviously, everything in you is telling you that ignore them. It must be wrong. It has to be a scam. But I just said, you know what? I asked myself the question, what's the worst that could happen here? What's the worst that could happen? And basically for me, it was that I invest in the education and I don't do it. That was the worst that could happen, because at the end of the day, I was going to have an education or experience. So within a short period of time, relatively speaking, from that event, I'd quit my job, and I set up a business primarily based around Twitter, of all things. And Twitter was something I knew nothing about. I didn't have a Twitter account, but it came up in, to cut a long story short, it came up in some of the programs that I had purchased. People were talking about Twitter, and a business partner of mine, she was using it to make £3,000 a month, which was like really decent money, and she had a full-time job at the same time. So that was it. I decided I'm going to learn about Twitter. I'm going to start to focus on making money from it, even though I know nothing about it. I wasn't a fan of social media, still am hugely to this day, as to how most people use it. And from there, it just escalated from starting selling other people's products, other businesses' products through Twitter, then building databases through it. And more and more people connected with me wanting to know about how you could use Twitter for business. And then once I got a mentor on board, he said, right, you can't put all your eggs in one basket here. You need to expand beyond Twitter. What if that shuts down? And that's what slowly opened my eyes to the rest of the social networks that were out there, like your Facebooks and LinkedIn, etc. And it's gone to a completely insane place where I've literally made tens of millions of dollars since. When people say to me sometimes, Paul, do you consider you took a huge risk leaving your job? And I've calculated, I think I would have needed to keep working in my job for, I think it's over 600 years to match what I've made in the following 10 years. So it's quite incredible, because you really don't believe these things until you start getting the results yourself, and because there's so few people around you that have created these kind of results. So that's why I've kind of made it my purpose to really get out there to people and say, look, I'm a normal guy. I'm not a person living in a mansion or driving around Ferraris or Lamborghinis, and I'm not here to try and impress you with that kind of stuff or with material things. I want to show you that a normal guy with all the same skepticism that you have, all the same objections that you might have had, that I understand them, and I can totally get why that's the case. But if you don't rethink what you've been brought up to believe, you are in major trouble financially, despite you learning it from the people that love you the most. That's the biggest problem, is that they don't know the way out for you either. And I'm trying to get to over 1 billion people to really introduce them to this concept of rethinking everything we've learned around money, around business, around mindset, and around what we can actually achieve in the few years we have on this planet.
Yeah. Just for those that are watching the video, I've got the book here. I want to show the Rethink Social Media. I know you've got a few books. We can talk about those later, Paul, as well. But a few things that I'd like to pick up on there that you've talked about, right?
Sure.
First and foremost, it all begins with education, right? You need to get some education to understand these things, and often the saying that's often said, right? You don't know what you don't know. So it started with some education for you, right?
I agree, but here's the problem. When you talk about education to 95% of the population, we confuse education with school. And that's what confuses people. When you say, well, I need to invest more in education, well, people are like, well, I'm not so sure about that. We're kind of done with education. So there's a very clear distinction for me between education that's resulting in a qualification, as opposed to education where your qualification is the amount of money, for example, that you generate. So absolutely, provided you're being taught real life tools and real life results, which is what you're all about.
Yeah.
So that is what I mean by, we got to rethink education. Because if you look at what's going on in the US right now, the number one US government asset is $1.6 trillion, which is outstanding US student debt. US student debt is the number one asset of the American government. And the irony is, I used to think the internet's a scam. But if you actually start to dig around and look at what's going on from a college perspective, the average graduate sorry for getting straight into a rant here, because I'm so passionate about this. The average graduate in the US graduates with 2 or 3 letters after their name and a $37,000 debt. The average person in the US spends $600,000 on debt, on interest alone in a lifetime. And people have no idea that this is what the whole system is designed to do, is to get you further and further into debt. Why don't we question that our teenagers are better off financially than our 20-somethings? Why don't people say there's something seriously wrong here? How can we be less well off the older we get with the education that we're receiving? So there is a problem, and it's right in front of our eyes. However, us as parents are forcing our kids to do exactly the same things that we did, but we got away with it because mortgages were for houses that cost 20, 30 grand. But nowadays, it's a completely different world, where you don't get onto the property market for literally less than hundreds of thousands. So the stakes have been raised dramatically, and if you don't kind of learn how to play this game, you're going to be in big trouble, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. The game has changed, and perhaps that's why understanding this topic of online space, online business, social media as a big part of that is such a fantastic opportunity, and one that people should seriously be looking at if they're currently in a 9-to-5 job and they're looking for some kind of escape plan. Why is social media and online business, why is it so suited, do you think, for somebody who perhaps has never run a business before?
Great question. I would say the main reason is because of how low the level of risk is associated with it. To run a regular business, there's a 96% chance of failure within the first 10 years. 96%. Just think about that. 4% chance of success. Now, the biggest problem with that is not so much the 96% for me, it's that it takes 10 years to fail. So you've gone through blood, sweat, and tears. You've sacrificed family life. You've sacrificed hours. You've sacrificed a decade of your life to something that didn't get you what you wanted to in the first place. And we learn in college, this is almost the worst part of it, we learn and get business degrees to go and learn things that are proven that don't work, with the 96% failure rate. So you've got people tell you need a great business idea. Like, that's almost accepted as the norm. Everybody goes, yeah, you need a great business idea. Then they tell you need to be passionate about it. And you're told that people need the product. And foremost would say you need to move away from selling your time for money and turn it into a product. And I completely disagree with all four of those things. I don't believe you need a new idea or a good idea. In fact, business is hard enough without trying to prove something new. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you find something that's working and proven, and then you outmarket other people or just market it better. It's just so much easier to do it in that way. Secondly, being passionate, people pursuing their passion and trying to profit from passion. Passion, if you look it up in the dictionary, means to suffer. And people don't understand that. So, if you're pursuing your passion, absolutely, you're going to get there. You're going to be suffering big time, because passion is this state of illusion of one-sidedness where what it truly should mean is willing to pursue passion in order to do the things you love, right? To pursue suffering in order to do the things you love. And instead of you focusing on what you're passionate about, for me in business, it should be about focusing on what others are passionate about. What are they willing to suffer financially for in order to achieve that goal? So your teenager at home will happily sacrifice financially to get a computer game. That's fine, because they're passionate about it. The third thing that I mentioned was, idea, the passion. Then, I mentioned about product and needing it to turn it into a product. So many business owners are tied to a product, and every product dies. Every product has an expiry date. But, if you're a business owner, you want to hold on to that, like, I don't want to let this go because this is my baby, in essence, rather than thinking, there's so many amazing products out there. Why does it have to be mine that needs to work? And I'm going to get to why the online side of this is so important. So if you're aware of that you don't need a great idea, you're better off replicating one that's proven. Passion, and you focusing on your passion, I would say, first of all, focus on other people's passions. Pursue what they want, because ultimately they're the people with the money. I wouldn't focus on just one product, because I think that is a formula for disaster. And the fourth one is, it makes so much sense if you hear it, go, well, just give people what they need, sell them what they need. Well, the thing is, Christian, people don't buy what they need, people buy what they want. And there's a massive, massive difference between the two. I mean, most people will agree they need to eat better, they need to save more, but do they want to go on a holiday? Yes, okay, I'm going to go on a holiday this week, and I'll save in 2 months' time. So, and one of the statistics that came out from a Forbes study recently on business owners that had failed, 41% of them said the number one reason why they believe their business failed was lack of customer need. And the saddest part about that is that even after their business failed, they've still missed the point. That it wasn't that the people didn't need it, it was that they just didn't want it. So the reason why I'm introducing these four concepts to answer your question, is because with an online business, you can test the waters instantly and get an immediate failure. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work. But you know what? At least you found out in 2 days. You didn't spend 10 years and an absolute fortune and had to write a book, a work of fiction called your business plan to go into the bank to get a loan. You can come up with your idea. You can put it on pre-order. You can put it in front of your perfect audience and run an ad for a couple of pounds over 2 to 3 days. And if people aren't going for it, well, then immediately, right, okay, this isn't the concept that I really should pursue as a business. So with an online business, you can, for like £1, you can start running ads on Facebook. 1 penny, you can start running ads on Twitter. They'll never be cheaper. You can go out and prove a business idea, and you can do it outside of whatever you're doing. Get up an hour earlier in the morning or do it an hour later in the evening. As Gary Vaynerchuk says, it's what you do from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. that will make the difference, in your financial affairs 10 years from now. And what an amazing way to go and prove out where there's no gut feel required, there's no experience required, because you literally just learn how to set this up, offer people what they're looking for. If they're not buying it, no problem. Don't take it personally. You just change the product or change the people. Because really business should be easier than it is, because you're providing people what they're looking for at a profit. So if you've got the wrong people, that could be one half of the problem, or maybe you have the wrong product. That could be the other half. But you can change those out literally in minutes when you're dealing with an online business, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So maybe, do you find, Paul, because you teach thousands of people this, to understand this, that for some people, when they think of social media, they think about their face being plastered all over it, absolutely. Right? And that puts them off. So shall we clarify exactly what we mean here by using social media as a business tool rather than posting loads of selfies and having to do videos, which really puts fear in a lot of people?
Absolutely. And I mean, the thing is, I'm not saying that people should stop using social media in that way with selfies and taking pictures of their dinners and, pictures of the holiday that they're on. That's what social media is. And they are the people that we will be targeting from a business perspective. So I'm not telling people to stop what they do on a day-to-day basis on social media. That's totally their business. That's their private and personal time. However, what I call it is social media for grown-ups, is where you're using the same website, like Facebook, like Twitter, like Instagram, but you go to a completely different part of the website and you go in there to track the performance of what your ads are doing, targeting those people on a day-to-day basis. So, I mean, ultimately, your business is not about focusing on money. It's about focusing on people. And if you want to make a successful business, you want to go where the people are, where they are already. And people are on social media, right? So, fantastic. 2.4 billion people on Facebook. So, in order for people to make money from Facebook, their automatic thought process is, oh God, Facebook, that means I'm going to have to go onto Facebook and post about myself. You start thinking as a consumer rather than the person on the other side, right? And it's a completely different ball game as to what you're doing, making money on social media than using social media for regular people. So, in fact, I was very reluctant to use my name even when I started. I was using pseudonyms and I wouldn't use my own photograph because I was very nervous. I had no confidence in what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't want friends and colleagues from work to see what I was doing in case I fail. But there is every single thing that is required of you to be successful on social media can be done as you, the personality, which is about only 40% of the people. But you can just as easily create a brand. And everything you do is depersonalized. It's not about you. So think about Coca-Cola, or think about Apple, or think about Dell, or anything like that, or HP, right? These are brands. They're world-renowned brands, and it doesn't harm them that there isn't somebody, Miss David Hewlett or whatever, Mr. Packard, coming, hey, look at what I'm eating today, right? That's got nothing to do with how they utilize social media as a business tool, if that makes sense. So that, for me, is if you're reluctant to use social media or you think about it in those ways, believe me, I completely get that. But the missing part of the jigsaw for you is that you don't need to do that whatsoever in order to literally cash in on the biggest opportunity that has ever been. We have literally just connected up the planet. There's more phones on the planet than people, right? If you think about 20 years ago, you had to ring a building to find out if a person was there and then get them to talk to you. Now everybody's connected, and it's so cheap to get in front of people that we will never have an opportunity like this again. Yes, of course, things will be optimized, everything's going to get more expensive, but you can only connect the planet once, at one point at the start, and this is right now, and that's why I get so excited about it. I don't even like social media, but I absolutely love what you can do on social networks to target people, to give them what they're looking for without annoying them, without trying to sell to them, but just actually finding people who are truly interested in what it is that you have to do as a company or a business to help their lives be better day by day.
I was going to ask you that, Paul. You mentioned there when you got into Twitter, perhaps around 10 years ago, someone might be thinking now, oh, well, I've missed the boat, right? The opportunity was there. You got in at the right point. But would you say the opportunity is just getting bigger and bigger?
It's when I say this, I don't know if people believe me, but it is so much easier starting today than 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you had to try and convince businesses that social media was something that was going to be important. You had to try and convince them that you should have a Twitter account. They'd laugh at you. This Facebook thing, this is really going to be important for you for business. They're like, I don't think so. There was no such thing as advertising. There was no Facebook advertising. There was no Twitter advertising. Everything had to be done organically, which means you had to manually go in and follow people. You had to manually go in and send messages. Let me just give you an example how to demonstrate this for you. On Twitter right now, you can literally leverage the fact that other people have had 10, 15-year head start on you, where somebody we mentioned in passing just before we started here, Christian, was Robert Kiyosaki, for example, or let's say Tony Robbins as another example, where you can literally put your message in front of their followers. You can literally choose, I want to put my message in front of Tony Robbins' followers, please. They'll say, okay. And what about the fact that we've another 40 million people who are similar to his people? Would you like us to put your message in front of them too? Yes, please. And there's nobody in there competing with you. It's just, it's so good it should be illegal almost, that you can literally go in. They've been doing all the work and you say, yeah, thank you. And then instead of thinking, well, God, if I could only write a great book about personal development, that's why I really want people to rethink and rewire what's going on here. Instead of thinking I need my bestseller on personal development, why don't you just sell a bestseller from Tony Robbins to people who follow Tony Robbins? Why don't you promote Richard Branson's latest book to people who follow Virgin? Or instead of writing the next best nonfiction or best fiction book, why don't you sell J.K. Rowling's book to Harry Potter followers? There's so many easier ways that you can get what people are looking for in front of them. Let's say Trump or Brexit, like two of the most divisive topics out there. I mean, you can literally go and sell I love Donald Trump t-shirts to people who follow Donald Trump, and I hate Donald Trump t-shirts to people who hate him, and same with Brexit and Boris, and it just keeps going. You don't have to get involved and bogged down in the conversation that's on social media. You just let people spend the money they're going to spend anyway, and you're just enabling them to spend it through you, basically, rather than somebody else.
Yeah. I'm glad you gave a couple of examples there, Paul, because I was going to ask you that. For someone who's thinking, okay, I get that there's a massive opportunity here, but I still don't quite get what am I selling? How's the money being generated? So could we give a couple of examples of how someone might go from start to actually seeing their first few pounds dropping in?
Well, okay, I'll just give you an example of a really quick way. For example, Love Island was, captured the nation there again this year when it came out. You can be watching Love Island like everybody else, or you can literally start running ads on Twitter at the same time where your message appears in front of everybody talking about Love Island. And you could have a link to, that bottle thing, the personalized bottles they were drinking their water out of that are very smartly placed. I
have to admit, I didn't watch it.
I love it. I'm a huge fan. But they have this very clear product placement of these kind of water infusion bottles where people's personalized name is on it. I think Superdrug sell them, or one of those superstore. You can sign up to become an affiliate or somebody who is kind of a partner of one of those companies that sells those. So it's free to do this. Like, you could do it on Amazon, for example. Let's say Amazon sold those water infusion things. You could go to Amazon, scroll down to the bottom of the page, sign up for free as a partner, right? Then you go to that specific Love Island water bottle, and they'll give you a link. So while Love Island is on, you can literally have a message going, you loving what's going on tonight with Love Island, with Megan and Greg or whatever it is. Would you like your own personalized water thingy, whatever it is, holder like Greg's? Just go here.
Yeah.
And they will literally be brought directly to the store. And this can go in front of millions of people who are looking at it right at that time. And they can purchase, and you get a percentage of that sale. You don't have to buy any stock. It's just incredible, because the other thing that I was talking about recently, dentures. The big thing on Love Island is not dentures, but those shiny white teeth.
Veneers, is it?
Veneers.
Yeah.
Veneers. At Love Island, anytime it's on, veneer sales go through the roof. So you can now sell these home packaged veneers. They're about £500-600. So you could literally say, do you want a smile like Megan's? For example, click here to figure out how you can save yourself £20,000 on official veneers. And you get paid £200-300 commission on just connecting people who are looking at it, talking to their friends, going, I want teeth like that, but I can't afford veneers. And suddenly this magic thing appears in front
while
of
sitting on your own sofa
while
watching
sitting
it.
on your sofa, watching TV and realising, oh my God. And that's what this is about. It's about rethinking what we do day to day to realise, oh my God, people are, of course they're spending money. Why am I? Why? Because we don't know how. We don't know how to utilise it. Now, for me, that's hard work. I know that doesn't sound like hard work, but that's, because it's one-off. You got to be on point. You can set it up for any TV show, by the way. You can do this for grand designs, even the repeats. So what I would ask or urge people to do is, rather than go for that one-off money, which of course you can do no problem, like X Factor could be on and you could sell t-shirts of that artist or whatever. That's no problem. You can do that all day, every day if you wish. But for me, it's about building a business. It's about, you've got to figure out, what problem are you solving, right? And that's the core of any business. What am I solving? Not about a great business idea. Let's forget that for a moment. Let's go where people are looking for solutions every day of the week. And you probably agree with me, Christian, that, drugs is a good business. The business of being in drugs, right? Whether it be illegal or legal. Illegal, high risk, big reward. Legal drugs, biopharma, no risk, massive reward, right? Why? Because they create addictions. Their clients become addicts, and that means you've got recurring income monthly. Now, when we talk about addiction in the media, it's always a bad thing. In business, addiction is Mecca, is Nirvana. It's where you want to go to. You want to create this addiction between you and your clients that they don't go anywhere else. So the addictions of the population right now are smartphones. We are absolute addicts. There will be a license fee attached to them, mark my words, in the next few years, because anytime the government spots something we get addicted to, they put a tax on it. It's just like TVs. It's going to happen. You'll have to pay for a license for your phone. But the other thing we're addicted to is health, wealth, and happiness. So you've got your smartphone, you've got health, you've got wealth, you've got happiness. These are the perfect businesses to be in, because there's no such thing as an end in sight. The worst type of business to be in for me is somebody who sells a solution that's a one-off product. Let's say, for example, you are helping people stop smoking. Success for your client is failure for you as a business, because that client doesn't need you anymore. You can't keep sending him emails. Hey, do you want to stop smoking this week? No, I'm done. I've stopped smoking now. Right? But with health, you never meet a healthy person that says, right, that's it, I'm done with health now. I'm going to go in for a decade of being a slob. Right? Or you never meet someone who's happy. You said, that's it. Next decade now is just going to be sadness I'm going to focus on. And it's the same with wealth. Wealth becomes addictive. So the beauty of those niches is they are addictive. People will constantly come back and look for more and more solutions. So I would make sure you're in one of those areas, or if you're already in business, connect what you do to one of those areas. Right? That makes life so much easier. Then what you got to do, then social media has a place, because now you actually know who you're looking for. Too many businesses go into social media that really don't know who they're looking for. And I would do a really deep dive analysis into who is the perfect person for my business. Of all my friends, family, connections, people that I know, of all of those people, who is the perfect person? And who's the male counterpart or the female counterpart? And then you go into social media and you specifically want to find those people. Now, you're saying start from scratch. What would you do, Christian? You're going to have to learn how to run ads. I'm not asking you to go in and manually start messaging people, which you see, that just doesn't work, and it's spam, basically. You want to start running ads to people where you are, let's say, for example, we talked about Grand Designs there as a good example. So Grand Designs, the real estate show where the people do doer-upper homes, and they're still showing repeats from early 2000s. People just love them. So I could run an ad on Twitter, for example, to all repeats of Grand Designs. And my ad says, are you watching Grand Designs right now? What a beautiful build. Right? That could apply to any Grand Designs show for the last 20 years. Would you like to know the top 5 mistakes every self-build person wishes they knew before they started? Right? So I'm going to give away a free guide with just the top 5 things that people make mistakes on when it comes to self-build, in exchange for their email address. So what have I suddenly got? I've got an email address of somebody who isn't interested in camping. They're interested in self-build. What does that mean? They've got hundreds of thousands in a budget that they're about to spend. Who would that be of value to? Well, if I'm in the business of self-build, it's huge value to me. But if I'm not, it's of huge value to architects in the UK. It's of huge value to anybody selling building supplies. It's of huge value of anybody who is into planning permission and et cetera, quantity surveyors. So you could literally, for example, sell those leads on for 10, 20, 50, 100, 200 pounds. It depends on who you're selling it to, as an example, right? All because you gave away something for free. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And some people might be thinking, oh, is that legal? Can I do that?
Absolutely. So, of course, and that's the thing, people wonder that. So, like anything, you have to be super clear when people leave their details. What are the terms they're signing up to? You have to be GDPR compliant. People always assume you're going to do it illegally, right? It's just as easy to do it legally. You just make it super clear what your terms and conditions are, what your privacy policy is. If you are, for example, now I think selling on leads is quite a complicated, and I'm purposely going from very basic to quite complex to give a range list depending on your listeners. If you were, for example, selling on leads, you have to be super clear that who you're working with, who your partnerships are, who will also receive your data in addition to yourself. But in most cases, it'll be just for you and your business. Where, let's say, I'm helping people with self-build, or so that would come in, by the way, under the wealth niche in terms of how to build your own property, saving a lot of money. It also comes in under happiness, and building the perfect home for your family. So build a database and then serve them. Just give those people information. Give them the latest information that's happening. Don't bombard them. No need to email them twice a day or anything crazy like that. Just, if they're on your database, the first email I would always send to someone is, let them know there's more coming, how often it's going to be sent. And if they're not interested, you won't take it personally, but just click on the bottom, unsubscribe, get off the database. There's absolutely no problem, no hard feelings. And I always feel that if you just treat people with respect and treat them with the fact that these guys know most people are knowledgeable enough to know that if they're leaving details, you're going to follow up with something. There's a business behind this. And there's no reason to hide that. There's no reason to, as far as I'm concerned, to pussyfoot around it either. I'd pretty much be open with them and say, I'll be giving you suggestions on how to do these things for free, and also shortcuts where you can pay for a fast track or a faster solution around X, Y, or Z, or whatever it specifically is.
I feel like we're just getting into it, Paul, but we've scratched the surface, and I hope that for our listeners, we've opened some eyes here as to the absolutely massive opportunity, and that it really doesn't need to be that difficult, and that some of the misconceptions around, tech worries and tech fears, and as we said, having to show their face all over social media, just don't apply. It's really, as you said, rethinking the whole game. And again, I'd love to just show the book here, because I know inside here, Paul, this book is fantastic. And for anyone who's interested in learning a bit more, certainly this is one thing, grab a copy of the book. But where else, Paul, I know you're speaking all the time, but where can people go and find out more about this and learn from you directly, Paul?
I was thinking about that. I think the best thing might be because as Christian, I work a lot with helping children now financially as well, and, helping them leverage this stuff. And I think what I might do is, if people are interested, if they just shoot an email to paul@leftclickrightclick.com, I can basically give them a list of the different things that I have around social media, around Rethink Money, around Rethink Time Management, and they can pick and choose from whatever it is in there, and I'll include a digital copy of Rethink Social Media in there for them.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. And
as a special bonus for this. If you could just put in the subject line, escape the rat race. So if you just paul@leftclickrightclick.com and escape the rat race as the subject line, I'll make sure that you get a free digital copy of the Rethink Social Media book that Christian is talking about, so that can get you on your way. And I'll also let you know of other things that may be of interest to you, because as Christian said, there's so much we could talk about here. But
there is. We might need to schedule a part 2 for this one at some point soon. Paul, before I let you go today, it's been really fantastic speaking with you. But I always ask my guests as the final words, for those people listening right now, they're maybe squashed up on the underground, or they're stuck in the traffic jam on their way to work, and they just know that something needs to change. Something inside them is saying that there's bigger and better things out there for them, but fear most likely is holding them back. What would you like to say to those people right now?
First of all, congratulations if you are sitting on the tube and you're listening to this, because you were definitely on the right track. Because my general advice would be to completely disconnect from the standard channels of communications that we're listening to, like radio, television, music, and to fill your brain with content from experts who are already where you want to go. So if you want to escape from the rat race, well, you should be listening to this. You should be listening to all of Robert Kiyosaki's audiobooks. You should be listening to John DeMartini's stuff around money. You can listen to mine on Rethink Social Media or Rethink Time Management. And the more you listen to this, the more confident that you will become in believing that, you know what, I can do this. Because the first time you listen to it, it's foreign, and you'll naturally reject it. Second time, it sounds familiar. It's like you've heard it before because you've listened to it before. But if you keep listening over and over again, you truly will be on the right path. Because garbage in, garbage out. But if you're, as DeMartini says, you cannot help when you put your hand into a pot of glue that some of the glue will stick. So you need to change. Like, I know I could say get mentored, get educated, all that kind of stuff, but that assumes that you have the money for it. The best thing you can do if you don't is get mentored by listening to these experts constantly when you're driving, when you're moving, when you're walking, even listen at work. So you feel so inspired that you've got no choice but to go and take it to the next level. And I'm sure, Christian, you've got plenty of ways in which you can help them elevate and escalate to the next levels. But that belief and that confidence and the overcoming the fear will only come, as far as I'm concerned, by constantly by rewiring yourself, and that only happens by listening to the people who've already done it. Because the reason you're fearful is you're listening to naysayers all day, every day, and everything in the media is perpetuating that fear. So you have to cut that out and start listening to people who are positive, who are focused, who have results, who are been to where you want to go, and who will truly inspire you to reach out to a new level and play a bigger game, ultimately.
Yeah, great words there. Thanks so much, Paul. Been great speaking with you again today. Hope we can catch up again real soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Take care.